Good morning, 20th February, Sunday, 2021. Disruption 34 central banks. Now, I was wondering this debate of these digital currencies regarding the fiat currencies, and the question is, when the banks issue this, that the central banks, then do they have really a code of conduct? If they had, for example, debt issued at a country that would have a 5% tax rate, including health, security, education, and all of the countries would share these, then of course this debt could be issued and granted to these countries. But if they issue this debt and this country, for example, has 50,000 public buildings and then also has 5 million public workers and also has 1 trillion art ownership, why does the central banks issue this debt? Because then this debt would 100% go towards the cost of that really massive state, who will not look after the interest of the humans, because none of this money would arrive to the pockets of the small and medium companies that provide 90% of employment. So would there be some kind of code of conduct? I lend you this money, but in return I have this code of conduct whereby I have no conflicts of interest. I have no public television. I enter into no private associations. I have no board decisions in private companies. I have no shares of private companies. I make no decisions of private sectors. I enter not in this competition discrimination, like, for example, recruitment and selection of sector in the HR sector. I enter no other sector like private buildings. I sold all my public buildings. I shared the health, security, education with my countries around so that I have a 5% tax rate, and therefore I would reduce my emissions, because all these causes emissions, and this is really harmful for the environment. So the code of conduct is very important to clarify whether this country should really be granted the debt or not, because this debt, what it does, you have studied macroeconomics and microeconomics. In the macroeconomics, gross domestic product, you know what formulas like interest rates, supply of money, and so on involve really the situation of inflation. Actually get to the end of, oh, this is so much inflation. But if you have this debt granted to a country that has a debt same equal to the GDP, and that this debt you're providing to that country, it is equal to the cost this country has in 1 year without making any restructuring, then of course you are generating inflation. Yes, central bank, you are generating inflation, but not because you are granting debt. No, the question is that you are granting debt with no code of conduct, because if this other country that receives the debt has so much expense, of course you are generating huge inflation. So the best solution is to have the central banks being miners, and therefore indeed we would cost some kind of energy, electricity for miners like the Bitcoin does, but then we would need no real central bank, and we would need no governments either, and because then this would be cost free. And that's why the pensions, when we pay pensions and social security, then the governments mix what pension is with sanitary assistance, And this is really conflict of interest, because if you provide money and debt to that country, the central banks, then what they really do is they throw in this bag the whole income that they are getting, the loan they are getting from central banks, and then what they do is they really spend it in the sanitary assistance, their own costs, and not in the pensions. So this is why it is much more interesting to have miners than central banks. That's my point of view. But anyway, I respect to have any other points of view. But what I do not respect is that central banks issue debt because they don't know where the debt is going. And if I had a 5% government tax for all my humans in my country, of course, then it would be nice to get debt. But if this is 100% tax they're doing for the humans, they're taxing the humans, then of course it is a huge conflict of interest, because that debt will never ever go to humans. And this is what is happening today. So I believe that it is very interesting the central banks to talk about Bitcoin and digital currencies, but I also believe that the core, the focus activity of central banks should be, who do I lend this money to? Is this country compliance, accountability of this 5% tax of humans in the respective country? I believe that instead of looking to other places, you have to look to your own central bank's cost, International Monetary Fund cost, and then reduce them to the minimum expression like Bitcoin has done. And the first thing that central banks have to do also is to guarantee that the small medium companies are the ones that provide 90% of these jobs worldwide. Therefore, all the fines that have been put by inquisition countries to these small medium companies have to be returned. You're looking at these loans to companies and how you can extend and how you can only pay interests and not capital. But the real core area is, if you stop fining small medium companies, please, and there should be a compliance whenever you loan money, debt to one of those countries that you print in money with no control, that really those countries return those fines. And until they do so, we will make these kind of videos to show you, central bank, that instead of looking to these digital currencies, which of course are much more efficient than you really have to look at the code of conduct that really accountability and compliance countries should be doing. Because today, in a Sunday, it's very interesting how freely we can make, at no cost and total complete communication skills, this digital disruption, to teach you that the central banks can really disrupt their own way of lending. Because we all know that the inflation is not really generated by excessive printing, I believe, my personal point of view, because what is going on today is that this digital disruption is really setting some kind of equal cost competition throughout the world. So if the minimum wages in some countries are too high, in others are too low, or if this product is too high here or this too low there, now with these digital tools, what we are finding out is that all the prices are going to the same place. So in some countries you can print a lot of money, but also the wages of the humans of that country will go down so much so that most of the countries would equal. So it's not a question of printing, as some say, the value of the money. No, it's a question that some countries have too high costs that now all the costs worldwide are becoming equal. But the question is that if you provide this debt, this money to those countries that have huge expenditures, and you really ask no accountability for it, what you are really financing is those governments. You are not financing the humans. And I'm sorry to say, but I believe that the humans are the ones that pay you. Therefore, you have to honor these humans back and get this code of conduct, because if we all equally have the same taxes worldwide, Of course, you can print as much money as you wish, but don't worry, we, the business persons, would take care of the situation because we are the ones that generate utility. Business persons generate utility, not central banks, not governments. And we generate responsible jobs. That's our task. That's our goal. It's not yours. And it's not neither the government's. No. It's a small, medium companies worldwide generate 90% of jobs responsible. If they had a tax of 5%, everything would be solved. You would not need to print so much because this money is going to the wrong hands. So I hope you like this video, and I really hope that you start applying these compliance and accountability tools because it's in the interest of humans. And now is the right time to do it. This coronavirus has opened our eyes, and really we need this to central banks help and get together, get their acts together for the good of humanity. Thank you very much. If not, you will keep on printing money, but it will go to governments that overspend, and that's not right, my friends. That's not right. Thank you. Bye. Take care.